I want it.
Look, mister, there's 3 rules you've got to follow.
Yeah, what kind of rules?
Keep him out of the light. He hates bright light, especially sunlight. It'll kill him. And keep him away from water. Don't get him wet. But the most important rule, the rule you can never forget, no matter how much he cries, no matter how much he begs, never, never feed him after midnight. You got it?
Sure, kid, whatever you say. Hey, listen, thanks, and have a Merry Christmas.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And today we are talking about the absolutely unhinged 1984 movie Gremlins.
Completely bonkers.
Absolutely just bizarre.
So I remember watching this movie growing up a lot. I was obsessed with this movie when I was like 9 and 10.
Yeah, that makes sense for you.
But I hadn't watched it in a couple years. Like I completely forgot that it existed. And so watching it last night, I was just like, oh God, like, oh God.
Oh God sums it up pretty well.
Okay, so Gremlins, to quote IMDb, is about a boy inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malevolently mischievous monsters on a small town.
Malevolently mischievous monsters. Say that 3 times fast.
No, I had a hard time saying it the first time.
That was just rude of them to put in that alliteration. I hate it.
As a writer, though, I absolutely get it. It is so hard to avoid alliteration sometimes because your brain wants to do it so bad. And then you have to be like, maybe 3 is too many, maybe just 2. You got to reel it in.
But what about 5 or 6? I think
5 or 6, you got yourself a tongue twister for sure.
Oh my God. So, okay. I forced all of us to watch this movie because I just saw it for the first time in October because I thought it was, a scary movie, not a Christmas scary movie. But, oh wow. It's just absolutely nonsensical, bizarro shit. And I love it so much.
Yeah, I have like a extremely strong snapshot memory of like being in my brother's room when I was little and seeing Gremlins on the TV. And so I thought I had seen this movie. Now I don't know if I had like walked in on my brother watching the movie or if it was like a commercial or what. Absolutely had no idea what to expect going into this though. And whatever I did expect, they were like sweet little Furbies. No, wrong.
Well,
Okay,
yeah, one sweet little Furby. Got a little Gizmo, my one true love. I love him.
Okay, but also, did Furbies just blatantly rip off Gizmo?
Yeah, yeah. That's what IMDb trivia said.
Blatantly did, and then they were sued for like copyright infringement or something. Yeah, because they're like, come on, guys, like you didn't even try to make this different in any way. So,
and they
please.
also gave them the same like condemned hell demon vibes, which is very interesting.
Oh
so I had a Furby, I had a white Furby growing up, right? I loved that thing. And then it started making like weird noises in the middle of the night to the point where I took the batteries out and like put it in my closet and it was still making weird noises in the middle of the night. Like no batteries, just like all demon possessed vibes.
That shit is unacceptable.
I have a Furby in my house to this day. But I refuse to put batteries in it.
Oh
no, it's God. A different Furby. We burned my other one, and my mom found another one in the closet when she was moving. It was like, "Do you want this?" And I'm like, "Sure. Let's just bring a demon into my
So
house."
it was reproducing, is what you're telling me.
It got wet. Now we have
oh my
another
God.
one.
But you burned it. You're just asking to create a grudge like poltergeist demon that lives in your home by burning a Furby alive. Like, come on.
So far, this new one is behaving. We haven't had any major incidents, just like maybe a couple small incidents.
I was trolling Twitter this morning, as I do when I just wake up, and I sent this to Chelsea. It's from @mnateshalaman, and it was very timely. And it said, "Hello, Hasbro. I'm calling about, yes, it's me again, calling about that's right, the Furbies. Seems they've invented God again. They're chanting and they've trapped me in the bathroom. Sure, okay, yes, I can hold." And I was like, yeah, that's exactly the plot of Gremlins, I think.
Yeah, I just like in the past couple of days, I'm back on Tumblr now, and on Tumblr I saw a post, and I don't know if this is true or if it was a shit post and somebody made it up, but it was like the Furbies when you're the Furbies when you're trying to mess with their faceplate are designed to say like big pain, like much suffering. Now I think about it, it has to be fake, but I would not be surprised if when you try to remove the Furby faceplate, it literally is like, you're hurting me. Like, Furbies are 100% cursed.
Straight up, I will never be trying that out to see if it's true. Like, do not fuck with a Furby.
Okay, but also, do you two want Furbies for Christmas?
No. Like a little bit, yes.
Oh my god, I want the opposite of a Furby for Christmas.
What's the opposite of a Furby?
It's a hex that protects against Furbies.
Okay, that's smart. That's smart. That's wise. We should probably do a little like protection spell after this episode just to make sure.
Y'all, I just Googled Furbies, and there's one that's called Star Wars Furbaka.
Oh god.
It's horrifying.
That's absolutely upsetting. I mean, okay, so the actual Furby, the OG Furby in this movie is Gizmo, who is probably the cutest little puppet man who's ever been created in the entire earth. That was not grammar, but we don't care. I'm obsessed with him. He reminds me of my puppy dog. And I also want to stake this claim early in the pod by saying that Baby Yoda jacked Gizmo's swag, and no one is talking about this, and it is unacceptable.
Get that discourse started, Monica.
Okay, and it was a smart move on Disney's part, okay? It was a very smart move because Star Wars came out in the 80s, Gremlins came out in the 80s. I get that there's an ear thing where Gizmo and Yoda both have the ears, so yes, I get that. But straight up, Baby Yoda is just furless Gizmo, and they are cashing in on that nostalgia. Because okay, after this movie came out, Gizmo toys, before Furbies, before the cursed Furby, they were like the top selling toy ever. And now Baby Yoda toys are a top selling toy. I don't know for sure, but I've seen several people on the internet that have a Baby Yoda toy. So
I've seen people like in real life walking around with their Baby Yodas and like taking pictures like you would with a child, but it's Baby Yoda. And if that is not horror enough, I don't know.
So it's like the reborn community has accepted Baby Yoda into their flock.
I think so.
Oh my god.
But like they just look like normal Baby Yodas, and I'm just like, why? Like we were at a pumpkin patch, and a lady was like taking pictures of her Baby Yoda like in the pumpkins.
I would do that.
Sounds like it's a cute picture.
Yeah, it sounds adorable.
But also, I'm upset. And now I'm sitting in my room and I'm looking at the tiny cowboy hat that I have that I put on my dog. And that would also look really cute on a Baby Yoda or on a little Gizmo. So now I really want a little Gizmo. Not a Baby Yoda because I don't watch that show. But Gizmo in my heart forever.
I don't want my own Gizmo or Mogwai, as I believe the species is called. They really didn't get into much of the Mogwai lore in this movie. I get the sense that there is more to unpack maybe in the sequel and apparently the novelizations of these movies.
Yeah.
But it seems like a lot of responsibility that it can never be in sunlight or touch water or you can't feed it too late at night. That part I think I could manage because like I don't give my dog food late at night either. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't eat it after midnight and we're fine.
That whole part, that rule, like doesn't make any sense though, because like how does it work like with time zones? Like
I've seen
when do
that
they take it to
argument
Texas?
online. Somebody brought that up in the IMDb trivia as well, but I have to imagine that like these creatures are so knowledgeable about how technology works and they can learn how to speak and play the keyboard and do all kinds of things. You know what I mean? So I feel like they
There's
are bound by space and time, and maybe it's like a darkness thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, obviously they don't know. It's to quote Jimmy Buffett, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. But
words to live by.
yeah, but like if you're there and it is midnight there, it's not that they don't know that it's after or before midnight somewhere else, but like they are living within that
The constraints of
that
the space.
yeah, that time in that area, in the way that like the day passes and the sun goes down and the stars come out. And my only question I guess would be daylight savings time. Feels like it could be tricky.
Well, maybe their circadian rhythm is just attuned to the earth, you know,
Yeah,
and
maybe
like
they
the
get like
populace.
jet lag if you travel with them. Maybe if you travel with them, you have to not feed them anytime near night anywhere for a while before they like get caught up to their new time zone.
God.
I saw a theory where the mogwais are weakened by sunlight, so you can feed them during the day because they're too weak to transform into gremlins. But at night, they're not weakened by the sun, so you can keep them weak with hunger. And if they're not weakened by either the sun or hunger, then they do their natural transformation into gremlins.
That's very interesting.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense, but I don't like the idea that their natural transformation turns them into little demon things because I really like Gizmo as a little fuzzy boy and I want him to stay that way. And he seemed like he wanted to stay that way.
Yeah, Gizmo was just pure vibing this entire movie. But I did see that Mogwai in Cantonese, it means devil or like demon or gremlin, which I think is like very funny.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it doesn't speak well to Gizmo's character, but again, we don't know where Gizmo is in his life cycle. Like we saw, what's his name? Stripe. We kept calling him Spike, so I'm no longer sure.
And that's my bad because I'm watching Buffy right now, and I got Spike on the brain at all times, and they both have shockingly blonde hair. So
yeah, they both had that bleach blonde hair. Easy,
yeah, easy mistake.
They're both bad boys.
Wow, sexy. Anyway, so Stripe and his pals, obviously before they've become full reptilian gremlins, they're still like naughty, and feral essentially. And I guess we just don't have enough information within this film, at least. Like if you don't know anything else, and I don't, we don't have enough information to know if like Gizmo was also feral like this when he was born, but the man who sold him, or he didn't sell him, but the man who was taking care of him in the Chinatown shop like tamed him or raised him or trained him in some way. Or maybe Gizmo was born of some other means, and it's like when you accidentally make them repopulate with water that they go crazy because they're born unnaturally, through this weird forced childbirth. Whatever.
That's really disturbing.
Yeah, how they repopulate is horrifying.
Very concerning.
Yeah,
horrifying.
So when Gizmo gives birth in this film, they're like just hanging out. Billy is with his child friend Pete, played by baby Corey Feldman. I don't understand what their relationship is, but like, hey,
yeah,
that's
IMDb trivia said they're best friends, but I'm like, okay, but Pete is like 10 and Billy is presumably like 24.
maybe, Billy is like his mentor. That's great. That's wonderful. He's like, I want to be a young banker like Billy someday. That's great. Good for him. But they're all hanging out, and then young Pete, who is a fool, just dumps water all over poor little Gizmo. And then Gizmo starts actually writhing in pain and shooting little fur balls out of his back, and he's like kind of like screeching and stuff, and no one pays attention to Gizmo. They just look at the fur balls shooting out of his back. And I get that there are things shooting out of his back. That's terrifying. But Gizmo is writhing in pain. Do we not love him? Do we not care? I was upset.
Gizmo is suffering and they turn a blind eye.
They turn their backs to him.
Honestly, that feels very on brand for these characters and this movie, because the basic premise is that the dad is an inventor who wanted to find something cool for his son, and he found this like mysterious creature in the shop in Chinatown, and he bought it from the proprietor's grandson once more under like shady premises where they had to like meet in the back because the grandfather didn't want Gizmo to be sold.
Yeah, he straight up says he's not for sale.
Yeah, and then the grandson is like, here are the rules for taking care of it, which are just no sunlight, no water, and no eating after midnight. But he doesn't say, like, what does Gizmo eat? How often does Gizmo need to eat? Does Gizmo go to the bathroom? Like, we have so little information, and nobody seems to have any issue with this. He gives Gizmo to his son. The son is just like, great, no follow-up questions. Like, Gizmo has babies, and they're all like, cute, no follow-up questions. Like, at no point throughout this movie is anybody concerned until they have become reptilian creatures, at which point they immediately go to murder, and they're like, you know what I mean? Like, they see these little feral creatures that have popped out of Gizmo's back, and they're like, that's a little weird, but whatever. How cool. I'm just going to distribute these to my friends for medical testing.
For testing on animals.
Yeah, they're not at all worried about them being dangerous or feral or needing vaccinations or anything. But the second that they become reptiles, they were like, we must microwave them to death.
And the thing is, this hits close to home for me as someone who loves lizards. Like, why the second that they become lizard-like, they're immediately on the chopping block? Unacceptable. But also wise, because they are evil devils. But
they somehow
I love lizards.
Mom knew, but I don't know. Like, whatever. I have so many questions. I don't think anything. They didn't like put that much thought into trying to make the evolution of a gremlin make sense, I don't think, so I'm not gonna question it too deeply. Because like originally Gizmo was supposed to become Stripe. Like they were all gonna transform and Gizmo was supposed to become Stripe, but then Steven Spielberg was like, but he's so cute. What if he stuck around and he got to be the hero of the movie? And even at the end, like when Billy finally is facing off against Stripe, the one remaining evil gremlin in REI or whatever it is.
It's like Bloomingdale's or something.
Yeah.
Sears.
They're facing off in the department store. And Stripe is finally defeated with the sunlight. Originally, it was like Gizmo opened one blind and then Billy opened the other, and it was like a tag team thing that defeats the final evil. But then they cut Billy's part of it so that it's just Gizmo because Steven Spielberg was like, he's so cute, he gets to be the hero. And then the actor playing
as he should
Billy,
be.
Yeah, the actor playing
my
Billy
hero.
Told him until he saw the edited film, and he's just like, oh. They just cut his heroics out and they gave it all to this little puppet that wasn't even supposed to be in the second half of the movie, which also had its own issues because they didn't like create this puppet to be able to do anything that the character was supposed to do in the second half of the movie, which is why Gizmo only opens the blinds and then like looks scared.
Okay, you're forgetting a truly crucial part. One, he looks cute in a backpack for about 35 to 40 minutes because he was not written into the plot at that point. So he's just like, oh, ee, ah. Also, I want to take this time to remind us all that that little squeaky voice that I was imitating, the voice of Gizmo, was Howie Mandel. It was Howie Mandel, the germaphobe guy who only does fist bumps on America's Got Talent. Howie Mandel. And
Truly
that's
his
disturbing
greatest
to
role.
me. It really is. It's disturbing to me. Apparently, he did a baby voice in his comedy routines, and that's part of the reason they chose him. I don't know. I have to move on. But anyway, okay, the most important part of the final scene is when little Gizmo gets in that pink Corvette, like a motorized vehicle, and like just freaking
crucial.
cruises through and goes up like this big shovel as a ramp and like flies through the sky. Honestly, incredibly epic. Like Fast and Furious who? Like this is the Gizmo is the fast, Gizmo is the furious. It's incredible.
Did this movie inspire Fast and Furious, the franchise? Without this movie, would we not have?
It goes without saying. Yeah. Vin Diesel was like, I want to have that kind of swag. Vin Diesel jacked Gizmo swag
Everybody
along with
wants
Baby
to
Yoda.
be Gizmo.
Who can blame them? I want to be Gizmo. I'd be happy to have giant furless ears like that. That sounds great.
Here's the thing. When I look at Gizmo, you know, like when you see a cute baby and you're just like, I would like to eat it. Like, it is so cute. I want to smoosh it and eat it. Like, every time Gizmo came on to the screen, my brain immediately went to like, oh, I want to just smoosh you. You are so cute and adorable. Look at your little smoosh, smoosh, smoosh. Like,
Designed to provoke that reaction.
Absolutely delectable.
But everybody on set apparently hated him, which is so sad. Because the puppet was just like total diva, so difficult to work with. And at one point you know the scene when all of the gremlins are like in the bar and they're throwing darts at Gizmo. Apparently that is because everybody on set just hated Gizmo so much that they were like, we must torture Gizmo, and we must put Gizmo through hell, and we have a whole list of terrible things we would like to do to Gizmo, but this is the one that we can put in the movie.
I mean, that makes me very upset, but also the realities of working with like $30,000 animatronic robot things must be hell. So imagine how many times they broke down.
Those things were so expensive. Like, what was the budget for this movie?
I read it was like 13 million, something like that.
Yeah, 11 or 13, somewhere around there. But it
all
made
went
like
into Gremlins.
140 million or something.
they
So
made
they
it
were fine. But yeah,
But,
I
like,
mean,
$13 million in 1984 is an insane amount of money.
seriously. Also, like, I thought it was claymation for part of it, and I was kind of blowing my mind. I was like, this looks like claymation to me because it was doing that like stroby thing, especially in like the first part with when the mom first comes into the kitchen. There's one part and I'm like, okay, that gremlin is definitely claymation. And then there's another part where they're all walking over the hill, like 30 gremlins. I was like, that part's claymation. Apparently no. Like maybe I was wrong, but I think they tried claymation and then they were like, no. And they also tried dressing up little monkeys in outfits.
Oh, gee, I wonder why that didn't work.
They like put like the gremlin like helmet on a monkey, and the monkey was like went absolutely apeshit, ha ha ha, and went all over the director's office, ripped up all his shit, pooped on everything, and apparently the director, John Dante, is that his name? Was like, so puppets, let's do that instead.
That does feel in character, though. I feel like they're not giving this monkey enough credit for going method.
Exactly. They would, but the film just would like imagine the utter true to life chaos that it would have been if it had been like 30 monkeys.
Do it on Suicide Squad. They should have let 40 monkeys do it on this movie.
Oh god, it would be beautiful. I hope that there's somewhere like a screen test of the monkey in the gremlin hat. But that poor monkey, and I'm glad that the monkey got to go back to being like a monkey, maybe hopefully after this horrible traumatizing experience of being forced into a gremlin suit.
Yeah, I am glad, I guess, that there was no animal cruelty on set, because there was plenty of animal cruelty suggested in regards to Barney in this movie, Barney the dog. And if you count the gremlins as animals, there was a lot of very creative animal cruelty against them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's just talk about Barney the dog for a second, because one, I got Barney the dog's name confused with Billy, the main character, and called him the dog's name the entire time we were watching it. So I do
You
apologize,
also called
Barney.
him another name.
I called
too.
Barney Baxter when Barney comes back. When Barney comes back at the end of the movie, I was like, Baxter's back! And you guys were like, Barney. So
Again, we're great at names on this podcast.
I need to pay a little bit better attention, I think. I was multitasking by drinking a terrible melon flavored seltzer at the same time and was distracted by how disgusting it was. So that's part of the reason, but it's not a good excuse. But anyway, Barney the dog. Barney the dog was played by a dog actor whose name was Mushroom.
Oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard.
This is the cutest thing. Oh, I was like, why didn't I name my dog Mushroom? That's such a good idea.
Mushroom, badger, badger, badger.
Oh, wow.
This is
I
a throwback
really
moment.
just did not know what the hell you were doing for a second. And I was like, are you okay? But I'm there. I'm with you now.
Thank you.
Also, very timely for the 2020 watcher, because cottagecore is so big right now, and I'm also going through a big mushroom phase. I bought a fondue pot that has mushrooms on it on eBay 2 weeks ago, so really
Cute.
appreciate the name right now. Yeah, I didn't have the money for that bad decision. But anyway, Barney the dog, absolutely beautiful, and was protected by his owners in a horror movie setting, and I gotta hand it out to the whole entire family there for protecting Barney at all costs by bringing him to Grandma's house, because if he would have died, I would have died too.
Yeah, I gotta say, we started watching this movie, we were introduced to Barney, and because I did not yet know the nature of this film, I was like, oh, I bet this is gonna finally be one of the horror movies where the dog survives, especially after we watched The Lodge last week, and the dog does not survive, which, by the way, they do at one point call the dog a dogsicle at one point here. There's a little dogsicle reference. That's our through line from The Lodge to this movie.
Dark through line this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Barney had stuck around, he would not have fared so well. So it's like a Scream 3 situation where it's like, thankfully somebody just sent the dog somewhere safe during the horrors of the film.
But he does come in at the end and do some crucial, fighting. Not really, but he is there at the end. So thank God for Barney.
So the original script was supposed to be a lot darker. They had the Gremlins killing Barney, but also killing Billy's mom and then beheading her and then bowling her head down the stairs.
And let's just talk about how Chris Columbus, the man who wrote this, is a sick fuck. What is wrong with him?
Apparently
Steven Spielberg had to step in and was like, no, we can't do this. Like, he had to be like, I get it, but no.
They were like, oh, we have to make this a little more family oriented, but like, what about this movie is family oriented?
Which is so, I mean, I feel like a lot of this movie, they were just like, we'll wing it. And then in editing, they were like, we don't need that. Just cut it. Because so much of this movie just kind of hops around without getting too deep into anything. And like, they introduced Judge Reinhold's character in the beginning, Gerald, and then we never see him again. Nope. And like Pete, we do have a moment after the water spill in Billy's art studio where we see him like fighting off gremlins and like cutting the Christmas lights that they're dangling from. And he does a great job, but apparently there were like lots more scenes with people that they just decided to leave on the cutting room floor and not get into. Like Gerald was supposed to be fighting alongside Billy and Kate for pretty much the entire movie, and then for whatever reason they're like, but the novelization apparently gets into a lot more of this stuff,
It's so
which
bad.
is again super dark. Because IMDb trivia said there was a deleted scene with Gerald where he locks himself inside of a bank vault to like protect himself, presumably from the gremlins. And then in the novel, it's like he did go insane. He did need to be institutionalized after that. And then Mr. Corbin, the bank manager, in the novel, he was killed by the gremlins. And then in the novel, Pete, Corey Feldman, was blamed himself for the death of Mr. Hansen. Don't know who that is, but he ran away from home and is never seen again. Like, that's what it says. This is insane.
That's just terrible. It's just traumatizing. Why?
Yeah, it's just like insanely dark and so fucked up. And I just had no clue how brutally these gremlins were gonna be murdered throughout the film, and it is like so creative, so unnecessarily insane. I tried to keep track of them. Oh, Mr. Hansen is the teacher who dies with the syringe stuck in his butt, which
Oh my god. And you know what they did originally for his death?
yes, but I want you to tell everybody else.
They had, okay, so he has one syringe in his butt and that's how he's dead in the final cut. But in the original, he had like a close up of his face with like 100 syringes stuck into his face. And like, okay, I get it. He was testing on animals and that's super fucked up, but like I have a needle phobia, so no.
Yeah, it just like, okay, the mom goes balls to the wall killing these gremlins. One she like mixers to death in the cake mixer. One she fully stabs to death. One of them she explodes in the microwave. Another gremlin is beheaded with a sword, and then its head goes into the fireplace where it screams as it's being burned alive.
Love that
Um,
part.
there's another gremlin who's like spun on the fan in the bar until it's thrown into a dartboard, presumably where it meets its demise. Another one is smashed under a car hood. Obviously, the most of them are exploded in the movie theater. Like, Billy's ready to blunt force trauma Stripe at the end where he gets the baseball bat. It's just I didn't know we were going there. You know what I mean? I had absolutely no hint that that's where we were going.
It is kill or be killed, Chuff. That's how it goes. All right. It's
Yes, because
Christmas Eve and it's kill or be killed.
clearly they
Do
do
or die.
kill. They don't kill as much as they were initially supposed to. Like a lot other characters, I guess, were originally supposed to die, and we were gonna see some of them die. But they do cause some real deaths. Like, obviously Mr. Hansen with the syringe in his butt, and then there's the guy who gets like pulled his arm into the mailbox. We don't necessarily see him die, but I am gonna go ahead and assume that he either suffered major injuries or died.
Okay, and zooming in on that part, the pastor was about to stick his arm in that mail slot and then he hears something weird and he's like, actually, my congregant, is that a word? It is now. You do it first. So that was a little like, about pastors. And I was like, that's not very godly of him. How dare he? And also, I really liked that nice little man's who put his arm in the post box. His face was so kind. I did not want anything bad to happen to him. He's adorable. And I think I recognize him from something, but I'll never know what.
Yeah, it just a lot went on with these gremlins. Although I gotta say, the Mrs. Deagle moment. Okay, it was both great because obviously Mrs. Deagle was Scrooge, and so get
She's
fucked.
a big bitch.
But also, we just watched Run with our OG spooky crew this week, in
Oh my
which
God.
the movie is about like Sarah Paulson is the mother of a daughter who's a wheelchair user. Blah 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 from there. but the chairlift in the home plays like an integral role in the plot. And so to watch that movie where the daughter is like the hero of the film, and like you see her overcoming adversity despite her chairlift being sabotaged and stuff like that, and then to watch this movie where the chairlift is once again sabotaged to the degree that it yeets her out of her home where she dies, like it did feel a little not okay.
The juxtaposition.
Absolutely yeeted.
Oh, seriously. But like, okay, let's roll back just a little bit. Yes, that is probably bad because she is in need of a chairlift, and we don't want to make fun of her for needing a chairlift. That is something that is totally fine. But you know, it's not totally fine being mad at a boy's dog for breaking your snowman, and in response to that saying, I want your dog, give him to me, I'll take him to the kennel, they'll put him to sleep, it will be quick and painless compared to what I would do to him. That is a thing that she says in the film. So
She does deserve to die.
She deserves to die.
Yes.
Also, a fun little thing about her is all of her cats, because she has like 40,000 cats, there's like 5. They're all named after different forms of currency. Like peso and dollar bill and all these different things.
Listen,
like-
she was all about her coins, okay? Like,
Yeah.
she knew what made her happy, and it was money, money, money.
Yeah.
She should have
get
gotten
that.
together with Gerald.
Right? They could've
Gerald
had
said
a
he
nice
wanted to
love
be a
Could've had, like,
millionaire
a-
by
like a-
30.
Could have been a cougar sort of scenario. It would have been very exciting, but it
They
never
could've
would have
watched
worked.
cable in his new apartment.
True. It never would have worked though, because her eyebrows were a crime to humanity and a punishable offense just in and of themselves. So something to note. They were really bad.
I will say though, she is like a predatory landlord apparently, but on the Deagle real estate sign per IMDb, I did not notice this, but I had a lot going on in my brain while watching this movie. There was a lot to take in. But apparently her hours of operation for Deagle real estate are 10:30 to 11:15 Monday to Friday. That's the ideal work schedule, I have to say. You get 45 minutes.
Is the ideal work
Amazing.
schedule.
45
That's
minutes
what I
of
would
work,
like.
and then the whole rest of the 23 hours of the day and 15 minutes, you just get to be an ice cold bitch to everyone around you.
Yes.
Sounds wonderful.
You work for 45 minutes, and then the rest of the day you just dream up ways to murder somebody's dog. Like, that sounds manageable to me.
Wonderful. What a life. What a life. Cut too short. No, it was right on time. But okay, we swooped past this pretty quickly, but I just want to put some shine on Mama, okay? The mom who comes down and just yeets all of those freaking gremlins right away. She has been through shit, and you can tell because her damn husband, we love him. He's a wonderful man, but he's an inventor, and he's really bad at it, but he's cute. We like that about him. It's fun. He's got creativity, but every single one of his inventions are fucking flying death traps. And so that's why I think that the mom is so prepared to just absolutely destroy all of these gremlins, because like she has been fighting for her life for however long this marriage has been, like dodging like eggs flying out of the egg cracker, like juice exploding everywhere. God knows what the shaving attachment of the bathroom buddy would do to you. Like, she was ready for anything, and she turned those inventions into weapons immediately.
I did think we were going to get more of the inventions playing a role in the gremlins' destruction, but they were basically like, no, he's just a failed inventor, and that's just kind of where it is.
There's a lot of missed potential there.
They were just like, that's background color, and it just explains why he had to find something cool for his son. But other than that, just don't think about it too much, or you will realize that he's kind of a sad man. And they like IMDb talks about that too, because the guy who plays the role is the guy they initially wanted for the role, but there was someone else who auditioned that they were like, he's so good and he brings so much humanity to the role. He really brings it to life to the point that it is too much and it will be depressing. So he cannot do it.
It's like it would be distracting. Everyone would love him too much. And so, no, he is overqualified for this position. And, that hurts to hear. The poor guy. I hope he got another starring role or something down the line. But again, we'll never know.
Okay, there is one thing that I want to talk about this movie. We talked about how Mrs. Deagle deserved what she got, and she absolutely did. There's another character that is like very questionable to me in this film, and that's, I believe his name is Mr. Futterman. Didn't know his name during the movie, did process it afterwards. But throughout the film, he kept being like, these damn foreign technologies, they've got gremlins in them. And I hadn't heard of this before, but Sydney pointed me to the Wikipedia page where this is like a real mythology kind of thing, where soldiers who fought in World War II believed that there were little creatures like living inside their planes and sabotaging them. And then Roald Dahl wrote a book about it. And once I was seeing this, I was like, oh yeah, like the Twilight Zone episode. Okay, like I remember the William Shatner episode, where he's on a plane and he sees a little creature on the wing of the plane sabotaging it. So it's like, okay, I kind of know.
That's William Shatner in that episode?
Yeah.
I had no idea what you were talking about when you mentioned that to me earlier. I was like, God, I don't remember him being in any Twilight Zone episodes. All right, continue. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, so that's like one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah,
Nightmare at
so
20,000
good.
Feet, it's called. And that came out in the 60s. The Roald Dahl book came out in like the 40s, I think, the 30s or 40s. And then this movie obviously came out in the 80s. So there's like a storied history here of gremlins and what they mean, and that being like an established term that people, I guess, were supposed to recognize when they watch this movie. I did not. So the whole time I was just like, this guy is fucked up.
Yeah.
I still think he's fucked up, but now I get where this is coming from, instead of just being like blatantly xenophobic the whole time. But
Yeah.
also it still is,
xenophobic.
yeah, it's still xenophobic, and it's like very weird within the narrative of this movie, because Mr. Futterman in the beginning is like, these damn foreign cars and foreign TVs, and they put gremlins in them, and they even have gremlins in your watches and in your earbuds and like all this stuff. He goes on this rant multiple times, but it's played like, oh, he's crazy and drunk and old, whatever. He's just like experiencing PTSD from the war, which is also fucked. But
he's
they're
got a
just
lot
like,
of ghosts, man.
yeah, they're just like, he's got justified trauma, so we're not gonna worry about it too much. But then when the gremlins go crazy and are attacking the town, there's a line where Billy's like, Mr. Futterman was right all along. But then at the end of the movie, when the grandfather from Chinatown comes back to collect Gizmo and be like, you guys should never have had this and you were so irresponsible with it, and this is why you don't appropriate other cultures without being informed about what the deal is. It felt like, okay, that's like a moral we can still get behind today. Don't culturally appropriate, and also don't bring invasive species into new locales. But the movie ends, and then the narrator is like, but if your technology is on the fritz, check for gremlins. And I was just like, what is going on here?
The moral of the story is that the foolish Americans cannot learn from their mistakes, even when a nice man with a spooky eye specifically spells it out for them.
Yeah,
like, straight up.
Yeah, I think the messaging is just like all over the place in this movie a little bit, and it was like very strange to me with the takeaway, because it's like Mr. Futterman is crazy, but then Billy is like, he's right. But then the grandfather at the end is like, he's not right, because foreign things are not inherently bad if you know how to deal with them responsibly and take care of things. But then the movie ends and the narrator is like, okay, but if shit is fucked, it is probably gremlins. And we know where the gremlins come from within the context of this film. It's just messed up to me.
No, and I feel like the moral of this movie is actually that Americans are just so dumb and thick that, like, even when a nice man with a spooky eye spells it out for you exactly, they're still not taking it home. They're still not taking home the message. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I read some really interesting essays about this actually online. One is by a writer named Susan Kohler. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, but I did my best on Black Girl Nerds, and she basically had a lot of the same exact thoughts that I did, which is like this is warning exactly about cultural appropriation and invasive species in the same way. And I had this exact same thought where she mentioned like Burmese pythons that people get when they're little as pets in Florida, and then all of a sudden it's still a giant Burmese python when it gets older, and they're like, "Oh no, this is now beyond my control. I guess I'll just let it free in the Everglades." And now it's like you've got these invasive species and Burmese pythons going crazy in the Everglades because people are just like, "Oh, this is a little out of hand. I'm just going to let it be somebody else's problem." Like absolutely no, that is like the worst thing you could do. I
That's
don't know. Maybe
outrageously stupid.
yeah. Like as somebody who went to summer camp on Catalina Island in my youth, I also learned a lot about there's like a herd of bison on Catalina Island that were brought over to film like some silent western movie in the 20s, and they've like managed to get it under control in the 100-year sense, and now they like still have the bison, but they like control the population or whatever. But Catalina Island also had issues where it's like, oh, they had rattlesnakes. So they brought over feral pigs to deal with the rattlesnakes. But then it was like the pigs were nocturnal, the snakes were not nocturnal. So now they had a snake problem and a pig problem. And just, you know, it's just, this movie to me was very like, well-meaning American ignorance, because at the end, while the grandfather was like, you did a really bad job here and I'm going to take Gizmo off your hands because you're clearly not ready for this, and also I never said you could have it in the first place. But the dad gives him the bathroom buddy and the grandfather's just like, you're a good guy. Like they're still just like friends, I guess. He's like, it's fine, I forgive you. I don't know. Just a lot going on in this movie.
Ugh, I love this stupid, stupid, dumb, 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 dumb movie. It is so pure. And the purest part about this movie is the bar scene.
Yeah, okay, first of all, the intellectual property in this film is off the chain. Like obviously they have lots of Steven Spielberg references. Like we see E.T. at least once or twice. There's a lot of allusions to E.T. I think we see Bugs Bunny also, which makes sense because this is a Warner Brothers movie. But they also the Gremlins watch Snow White. Like I am so sure that that little pink car that Gizmo was driving was a Barbie car. Just absolutely so much intellectual property made it into this film, which is insane to me. I don't know. And then they reference so many different scenes in the bar scene with like flash dance and stuff.
Dude, the flash dance is hilarious, but
That was a beautiful moment.
there's also a like I was just like mentally looking at all of them. There's a drunk Irish gremlin, which okay. There's the flasher.
Yes, there's a little flasher
Necessary.
gremlin. Why is he there? Kate cannot escape creeps even when they're gremlins at her work.
There's a cowboy gremlin, and there's also a prostitute gremlin. So
Yeah, and then there's also that gremlin that has puppets, and I'm like, is this supposed to be meta? Like, because they're puppets? And that only occurred to me now. In the moment, I was like, that's a fucking freak gremlin that he has puppets. But now I'm like, oh, I think it was supposed to be meta. Like a little lobster. How fun. Please stop.
The gremlins were absolutely unhinged, insane, just overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by these gremlins.
I think the bar scene, even though I enjoyed it, it went on for like 5 minutes of just these gremlins in a bar doing like insane things. Like, it is one of my favorite scenes, but it's just like, why are we here? Why is this taking so long?
I wanted it
And
to be longer. I was like,
but
let's really dive into their world, into this utopia of gremlins within this Irish bar.
it also shows that the gremlins won't kill you if you are useful to them, because they have Kate in there who's like serving them drinks and like lighting their cigarettes and like making sure they're fed. So the gremlins are like, nah, you're fine.
That's
I have
the
a lot of
secret.
questions about the nature of these gremlins, and I just don't know if I will ever get these questions answered. They go full murder right away when they're born. Do they like chill out and settle into like who they are as they learn to Christmas Carol and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like as they acquire more skills, are they adapting to society? Are they taking over? Are they there is a scene, I don't know if it was like cut from the movie or if it's from the novelization, but allegedly there was a scene where the gremlins are eating someone, so it feels like
Oh, that's when they attack the McDonald's.
oh yeah, yes, okay, apparently there was going to be a scene where they go in McDonald's and instead of eating burgers they eat the customers.
I can't believe they'd skip out on a Big Mac opportunity like that, but I don't really get it, but I feel like their whole like MO is just like inflicting pain. Like when they're singing Christmas carols, it's not because they're like, we love Christmas now. It's because I feel like they just know that Ms. Deagle freaking can't stand Christmas carolers, excuse me. And so they're like, let's like really annoy her and then yeet her off of the third story of her home.
But then they're all so soothed as they sing along to Hi Ho and Snow White. And I was like, have they watched this movie 5 times already that they now all know the song and they're just like playing it on repeat? Or is it just like they're just jamming along and they're happy to do what is like, I don't know.
I have a lot of questions as to why Snow White. Like, why do they love Snow White so much? Like, they
they're
are
How
just
did
as
Warner
rowdy
Brothers
in that
get the right?
theater. Well, there's that. But, like, they are just as rowdy in that theater as the opening of Scream 2. It just goes
So true.
down for the theater.
They relate
Scream
to a
2
group
inspired
of
by Gremlins.
tiny men who are misunderstood by the rest of the world, okay? And they wanted Kate to be their Snow White, but it didn't work out. That's it. That's the subtext.
Oh, that's a good reading, actually. I
Thank you.
support that reading.
Okay, but also, can we talk about Kate for, like, a hot second?
Let's talk about her for
Because
many seconds. There's a lot to talk about.
there's one, Chelsea thought it was 2 different people in this movie.
Like Billy starts like flirting with Kate like later on in the film, and she's like, "What about that bank girl?" And I'm like, "Chelsea."
She had
Darling.
it looked like she had short hair. I thought we were having like a short, you know how sometimes they have to pick between 2 girls and one is like your nice short-haired work colleague and one of them is like your long-haired bar wench temptress. I just thought we were getting like a short hair, long hair dichotomy.
Listen, Kate is versatile. She can be both.
Get you a girl who can be a temptress bar wench and who can be a chaste banker.
Exactly. Isn't that what all men want, especially in 1984?
She's
Good
a
point.
chameleon.
She goes through a lot though. Judge negs her at the beginning, and then the flasher gremlin is like sexually harassing her at the climax of the movie. There's just like a
At
lot.
her place of employment.
Her place of employment.
But, like, throughout the movie where she alludes to, like, why she hates Christmas, because don't forget, this is a Christmas movie.
Oh my god.
And, like, I don't know. I get this movie is supposed to be absurd, but this movie is also, when this came out, there wasn't a PG-13 rating. And it was
Which is
billed,
insane.
but like this movie was billed as like a kids Christmas movie. Like it had Gizmo, it had all this
I
stuff. So these parents show up with like their 8-year-old children and are just like, what the actual fuck is wrong with this movie? Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, Kate's backstory is going to haunt my dreams. I actually look forward to the nightmare I have about her backstory because it will be one for the books. I mean, I have the whole story. Should I read it? What she says, because you really kind of need the whole picture.
Give us
yes.
that quote, baby.
Okay. So she says, "Now I have another reason to hate Christmas." And Billy's like, "What are you talking about?" And she says, "The worst thing that ever happened to me was on Christmas. Oh God, it was so horrible. It was Christmas Eve. I was 9 years old. Me and Mom were decorating the tree, waiting for Dad to come home from work. A couple hours went by. Dad wasn't home. So Mom called the office. No answer. Christmas Day came and went, and still nothing. So the police began a search. 4 or 5 days went by. Neither of us could eat or sleep. Everything was falling apart. It was snowing outside. The house was freezing, so I went to try to light up the fire. And that's when I noticed the smell. The firemen came and broke through the chimney top, and me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird. And instead, they pulled out my father. He was dressed. He was dressed in a Santa Claus suit. He'd been climbing down the chimney, his arms loaded with presents. He was gonna surprise us. He slipped and broke his neck. He died instantly, and that's how I found out there was no Santa Claus. Oh.
But okay, imagine it's 1984. You take your children to go see this adorable Christmas movie that you think is going to be fun and family friendly. And all of a sudden, you get murderous reptilian animals, and you have to explain to your children that Santa isn't real. Like, this is how you learn that Santa isn't real.
Like, this is the
Not
most
only do
horrifying.
you have to talk to your children about Kate's line earlier in the film where she talks about how the rate of suicides go up over Christmas, but she also talks about her dad dying horribly in an accident, and there are gremlins getting microwaved to death, and then also Santa isn't real. It's just so much for a child to try and comprehend. And I can absolutely imagine why people were like, no, and this film should be burned, and I am gonna sue Warner Brothers.
Listen, say what you want about Gen X, but they have truly seen some shit.
It was like the Wild Wild West. Like, anything fucking goes.
I do have to say, we keep talking about this movie as a Christmas movie, and it clearly is if you watch it, but also, can we acknowledge the fact that this movie came out in June? Did you guys
A lot
know
of
that?
Christmas movies come out in June.
Do they?
Okay, but this one, the reason why it came out in June is because they were like, "Oh man, there's gonna be like a big opening for a summer blockbuster. Let's like do this really fast so we can get it out there, even though it's explicitly set at Christmas time." But then jokes on them because this literally came out the same day as Ghostbusters, so that didn't work.
I just, can you imagine watching this movie in June? It just feels like you would walk out of the theater in 1984 no longer tethered to time or space or reason. You know what I mean? I feel like if I saw this movie in June of 1984, it would give me some kind of existential crises where I just would come out a changed person than who I was when I went into the theater.
Yeah, that's how I felt in 2020 October when I watched it for the first time. So definitely changed me body and soul.
If it makes you feel any better, Chelsea, the absolute Christmas classic Miracle on 34th Street came out June 4th, 1947.
That makes me feel 1,000 times worse. I don't know why this is happening.
Like, there's a lot of movies, like Christmas movies, that come out not around Christmas.
Why not
Die Hard
July?
came out in July 15th in 1988, which, as we all know, is the greatest Christmas movie ever.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Oh
Okay,
my
that makes a
God.
little bit more sense to me though, because at least there's that like thing that people say like Christmas in July,
Christmas in
ha ha
July.
ha. But like June is not July, and also very close to
Excellent
July.
point,
So
Monica.
why not just put it in July? Thank you, thank you. I finally got the calendar down. Took some time.
I don't know. This movie is so unlike anything I have ever seen and will ever see, I think. And I will be processing this until the end of time.
My favorite thing about this movie is that there is no other time period where this movie could have been made. Like, you try to make this movie in 2020 and you are getting nowhere. Like, this movie is not happening. You try to make this movie in the 70s, absolutely not. But like the 80s was such a
This is raw.
weird
This is a
time
rough
frame.
time.
Cocaine
And
full time.
and I
That's
like
what
I
it
think
is. It's the blow. Oh man, I
it's
forgot
all
about that.
like, I think it's why 80s movies are always my favorite, because just you'd never be able to make them in any other time but the 80s.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just go ahead,
you go.
Monica.
Oh, sorry. Okay, but the one thing I feel like this could happen in the now if Steven Spielberg had gone with one of his directors that he considered for this movie. He considered Tim Burton to do this. But Tim Burton had only done short films at the time. He'd never done a feature length. So Steven Spielberg was like, it's a risk. But can you imagine how just absolutely macabre this would be? Even more so in like such a dreary way. I would love for him to do a remake even now. I would love it. It would
I
be
don't know. I feel like it would be all blue tinged and claymation, and
I
it would
love
lose
claymation.
some of the unhinged energy it has because it would be
True.
more rooted in like logic, probably.
Yeah, he does think things
Whereas,
through a lot of the time, unlike
yeah, this movie
Dante
just
here.
Joe Dante just wilds out absolutely every opportunity that he can. But what's really interesting to me is if they did it today, they would do like CGI, which fine, whatever. But
Would
the
ruin it.
CGI does not have that untethered energy from reality that the puppets have, the animatronics have. And one of like the whole they don't like bright light thing, that rule for the Mogwai came from the fact that they were like, these puppets are like gum and shoestring together, so we just can't show them in bright lighting or people will be like, that shit looks fake. um, and that's why they have to be like in darkness and shadow the whole film.
Listen,
That's
it is a
genius.
proven fact that puppets are absolutely unhinged. Like, no matter where
Yes.
they are in any form of media, you are having an absolutely insane performance when a puppet is involved.
Yeah, I also like I don't trust a single puppet that exists. Even though I definitely had like little hand puppets, even the little lobster hand puppet that they have in the bar scene, still don't trust it. And I also am triggered by puppets because in my basement of my apartment right now, there is a Tupperware box, not a Tupperware box, one of those big storage boxes. And my next door neighbor moved out, and I saw it down there, and I opened it, and inside was just three like Avenue Q style Muppet puppets in there, and I was like, absolutely, what the fuck is this? So I took a picture, I texted it to my neighbor, and I was like, oh, I think you left this insane shit in our basement, in our shared basement. Please get rid of it. No, I said something nice. She's amazing. And she was like, I have never seen that before in my life, and it is not mine. So there are scary ghost cursed puppets in my basement right now, and I will not touch them because if I take it out of the house, for sure it's gonna come kill me. But yeah, this is like a hot button issue for me. That's why.
They were cursed on set too, which is the thing. Because, like, again, the Gizmo puppet was not designed to do very much, and so it simply didn't. But obviously, the Gremlin puppets are a lot more active, but they also had a lot of technological difficulties. And there was like one scene where they were filming them that the problems, it said IMDb, trivia said, the problems with the Gremlin puppets were so severe that the entire cast fell asleep on the set during the delay as they like tried to get the puppets back in working order. Like, this is the degree to which things were just absolutely off the wall during this movie.
Oh man, and there's also that one scene like right when all the gremlin babies are still little fluffy cuties, but they've just been fed all the chicken, and Billy and Gizmo are laying in bed falling asleep, and I guess Gizmo's face is supposed to look like he's like drifting off to dreamland, but instead he looks like he's like, I don't even know, melting or something. It looks like a malfunction is happening. His mouth is like open and he looks so worried and he's like blubbering like a fish and then he falls asleep. And I was like, oh, I thought he was having like a stroke or something very bad. And instead he was just falling asleep. Interesting. It was very alarming. I was like, why is no one upset for poor little Mogwai baby here? No, he was fine. He was just slumbering.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we said, this movie was released when it was, because the studio was like, nobody else is going up against Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Like, let's seize this opportunity to be a blockbuster movie weekend. And then they faced off against Ghostbusters, which won, but only slightly, in terms of like worldwide box office. But the creators are very proud of how it performed in New York, where everybody was pissed about Ghostbusters because there was so much traffic while Ghostbusters was being filmed, as like streets were shut down to film the movie. But again, it just feels like this was the Wild Wild West, not only because it was the 80s, but also because everything in this movie was just like done on the fly. Like, the dad just improvised all of his lines instead of following the exact script. And everybody's storyline, like, Judge gets cut out of the whole ass movie basically, and like we just never see some people again or find out what happened to them. And even the director himself, his name is Joe Dante, by the way. I think we called him John Dante earlier, but it's Joe.
John Dante.
But apparently he
We're
is
bad
quoted
at
as
names on this
saying,
podcast.
it's part of our charm. I mean, is it? I don't know, but it sure is a quality that we have. He apparently said, I still have no idea why this picture was successful, and he liked the sequel better, which just goes to show you that everyone involved with this movie was just like, we don't know what's happening either.
So a lot of people, I've never seen the sequel. A lot of people online are, have very strong opinions about the sequel, but a lot of people really like it because it's more of a parody of the first movie. They're like, the first movie is like serious and all this kind of stuff, but the sequel gets to be like funny, and I think they like bring up the whole time zone thing. So now I'm gonna watch Gremlins too.
Wait, you're telling me that people thought this movie, Gremlins 1984, which we just watched, people watched this movie and thought it was too serious.
Yes.
They were like, the movie,
Finally,
the
they
second
can
one
have
needs to have
fun.
more fun and be sillier. Like, after that whole bar scene, you're telling me people watched this movie and they were like, how do we make it funnier? How do we make it more of a parody?
Yes. Like, it truly makes me want to go watch Gremlins 2.
No, we literally have to watch Gremlins 2 because our friend from Spooky Crew, Rebecca, her dad is like a famed makeup artist, Rick Baker, and he does Gremlins 2. So he like designs all of the monsters, everything, and just knocks it out of the freaking park. And he co-produced it. So I'm excited to watch that one. I've heard
Wow,
great
we are
things.
definitely gonna have to watch Gremlins 2.
Oh yeah, 100%. Not
I
next
just
week,
don't
but soon.
know.
We need a little bit of space, I think, to take some deep breaths and maybe recover.
Yeah, I don't know if like I have the emotional or intellectual capacity to handle Gremlins too. But I guess we'll see.
Let's wait
And
till
also,
like February.
okay, should we talk about our favorite deaths or favorite attacks, I guess, since some of the deaths are a little ambiguous?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. I want to go first.
go.
Okay.
My absolute favorite death is Stripe's death.
Why?
Stripes
Tell me
death
more.
is so disturbing.
It's so like all of the little Gremmies, all of their deaths are very disturbing. But Spike's death, Spike, okay, Stripe Spike, Spikey
It's
Stripe,
synonymous. It's the same.
same thing. Like child Sydney was horrified at it, and adult Sydney is equally as horrified. It is so gross.
Oh,
Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
the 80s knew how to do slime well, and the fact that this like little evil body just like, and this is when the dad comes back and is like, what's going on? And he like walks in and this gremlin is being just like melted by acid sunlight, and he just like,
Oh my
"Ah,
god.
ah!" And then he's in the little fountain, and then his body just like jumps out of the fountain, and he is
Skeleton.
covered in slime, and it's like still moving. He's like, I will not go down this easily. And then he finally dies. And then we see like as everybody's walking away, it like turns back to the puddle of like gross goo, and it's like bubbling, like it's still breathing. I just had a really great time.
It was, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I had a great time watching it. I would say that I was like my jaw was on the floor the whole time. But like, what a spooky skeleton. And you know what? I respect Spike slash Stripe for, refusing to back down, even as he melted into a goopy pile.
That
I
death
also
was
like that all of their blood is like green. They have like weird greeny blue blood. It's my favorite thing.
They definitely got away with such dramatic gore, especially in the kitchen scene with the mom, because the blood was green. Like, if that blood was red,
Mhm.
everyone would be like, "Ah," but like it's green, so it's like, oh, it's fine. That could be anything. It's just some relish. Like, it's fine.
oh, I don't like calling it relish.
I'm sorry, but
But
that's
I
those
will
are my
say,
favorite deaths. Oh, sorry, you go.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Spike's death, Stripe's death is my favorite. I will say it's iconic. I have to say his like final moments in the face off were some of my most favorite crazy moments in the whole movie, because not only does he like shoot a baseball at Billy through that like automatic pitcher machine, he also shoots him with a crossbow, and then he like crawls to the fountain and he has that quote where he's like, water, and then he sees a gun and he's like, gun. And the fact that he's just like timed this dramatic moment perfectly where he waited to reveal himself with the water and the gun until Billy approached, like, incredible king shit. Just
Absolutely.
the gremlins are clearly very smart. They figure out how technology works. They know how to scream the movie. They know how to watch this movie and like take it in, learn how to play the piano, etc. Lots going on there. But that he has a concept of dramatic timing to me was particularly impressive.
Seriously, he was born for the stage. He knows how to get them with the anticipation. He knows what he's doing, and we love that about him. R.I.P. Stripe slash Spike. What was your favorite death, Chelsea?
Um, just because it took me so entirely by surprise, and because I've mentioned it 500 times so far, I do think it has to be the gremlin in the microwave, because it was just so beyond the boundaries of what I was expecting, and it was so early on in the film where I was just as we got the whole like kitchen fight with the mom, that's when I started to process like, oh, we're going there. And then she exploded one in the microwave, and that was it. I mean, the stabbing one, I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah, she
'Cause
had some pent up aggression going on there.
yeah, like the one in the mixer, that's kind of understandable because it's like she's just turning on the technology at hand. But the stabbing one takes things to the next level, and then she shoves one into the microwave and closes it and turns it on. And I was just like, I just didn't know that like this is what we were doing tonight. You know what I mean? Like I was
Oh yeah.
so unprepared, and that's the moment where I finally understood that I was in over my head.
Yeah,
You
it
could
goes from
see-
0 to 60 in like 1/2 of a second. It's
You can
jarring.
see the little gremlin body like writhing in pain in the microwave, like when they pan out, which is something that I didn't notice before, but like the detail work on
The
this
realism,
film
the
is
realism. It's the
just
realism
and-
for me.
Just it explodes, it's just like wow. That's all I have to say for it. What about you, Monica? Were you saying the kitchen ones were your favorite too?
Oh, I mean, that whole scene is like my favorite part of the entire movie because it's just like you said, so unexpected because of the gore, but also because like she's such a nice like mommy, and then all of a sudden she's like bad mommy who kills, who fights to the death and wins. And so I love that, but I also will say that I really like the death immediately after the kitchen scene when Billy comes home, because at the beginning of the movie, the dad comes home from his business trip and he puts a sword back on the wall. And I was like, I'm glad to know that he's a guy who has swords. That checks out for me. Like, he really seemed like a dude who would collect swords. And then I'm really glad that the sword was used. So Billy
Mhm.
comes home and he's like, you know what? I'm a sword boy too. And he just doesn't waste a second. It slices off that gremlin's head and sends it into the fire. It's beautiful, beautiful continuity return of the sword theme, or thward, which was what I was about to say. And I really liked the continuity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Is there anywhere that we feel like this movie could have been gayer?
I feel like there was bound to be something a little bit gay happening with all of the gremlins in the pub, but not explicitly enough. I feel like that was a great opportunity right then and there.
There was one gremlin wearing lipstick and a wig, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to think this is a girl gremlin or if this gremlin is in drag, or you know what? The gremlins, again, we were joking about this, but the gremlins, they might not have the same concept of biological sex and gender that we do. Maybe they're all non-binary. They're all they, them gremlins.
They are a
And
superior race of little monsters.
so it's hard to say whether or not anything was gay with the gremlins because, again, we just don't have the scientific knowledge about their species. I guess things could have been a little gayer with, like, Billy could have been gay.
I think Gerald secretly was in love with Billy.
I like that
Oh.
too. I was thinking that as well, that like Judge's whole thing and why he was such a mean butt face was that he was struggling with some internal questioning, and he was taking it out on the object of his affection, Billy, but also Kate. So bisexual king, but a jerk, and he goes insane, and we never see him again. So doesn't really do it.
Not great representation.
Yeah, no. And then, okay, the age-old question, where does our boy Maddie Lily go? I'm so sorry, Matthew Lillard. I want him to be the voice of Gizmo instead of Howie Mandel somehow, because I don't feel comfortable that it's Howie Mandel. It just
No, he would obviously be the
Ugh.
voice of Stripe.
Yes,
Obviously.
yes,
that feels right. That
100%.
feels really right.
100%.
Obviously, the voice of
Okay,
Stripe.
and then here's my other rewrite. My other Matthew that I love, Matthew Gray Goobler. We know that he can do a squeaky voice because he's in the Chipmunks
He's a
movies.
chipmunk.
He could be Gizmo, and we would just get Howie Mandel out of there. Sorry, Howie Mandel, you're a very nice man, but something about you scares me, and I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either, but I will say we gotta give Howie Mandel his chops for this movie, not just because
He
of
did
the
kill it.
movie that we saw, where he did a great job, but also because apparently part of the reason this movie was so successful internationally is because, like, with the bar scene, they changed a lot of the references to be like culturally relevant to whatever the release was. So, like, for the release in Germany, they changed them to the Gremlins like singing German beer songs and stuff like that. And Howie Mandel did the same thing with Gizmo, where, like, okay, in the beginning, Gizmo's like learning words, but it's not implied. I mean, I guess it's implied with Stripe at the end that he knows water is water and gun is gun, which that's a whole other issue. But in the beginning, Gizmo is just like repeating words that Billy is saying, or that he's hearing on the radio or whatever. But apparently, Howie Mandel learned how to say words, at least phonetically, in other languages for other releases of the film, so that like all the little in jokes and stuff like that would still work, and it would still, like, he did all of the international Gizmo voice versions too. So he did like a whole bunch of different language moments. So that's a kudos to him.
He worked it. Okay, I'll give him that. And I loved Gizmo so much, mostly in part to his cute little voice, but it was just very disturbing for me to be in love with something that was voiced by Howie Mandel. And that's
Sure.
where the issue lies. But you are a
Sure.
talented man, and America's Got Talent was very successful for a time. So thank you.
For a time. What a bird.
It's true.
Okay.
Okay. Oh.
Is
Okay.
it time to award?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It's time. It really is. We're all in agreement. It's time to do our knives out of 5.
No, we gotta do our dumb bit.
We're all in agreement.
I'm the dumb bitch.
I did that last week with the
Okay,
watch
so
when I
Monica-
did right to knives out of 5s, and then Sydney was like, no. It's so funny to me that you said we're all in agreement.
We're like so in sync. Like, oh my god, how do we do it?
We're just all doing our best.
Okay,
crying
besides,
over here.
besides me, who is the dumb bitch of this movie? And I feel like we have like quite a few. I'm still crying. I feel like we have quite a few options here to discuss. Okay, I've collected myself. I'm between 2 different people for the dumb bitch, and it's hard. No, 3. Oof. Okay, someone else go first. I'm still thinking, and tears are streaming down my face.
I am going to nominate all the humans except for the nice old Asian man at the beginning are the dumb bitches.
Agree.
Like every single one of them, like even the small kid that he sold him the things when his grandpa was like, no, do not do this. The man bought it. Like Billy and Pete spilt water on him. They did everything. Like, and then at the end of the movie, the old grandpa man is just like, y'all are dumbasses. He literally tells them, like, y'all can't handle this. So I just
is like, you guys are stupid as hell.
Seriously.
I vote every single human in this movie, except for the mom, is a dumb bitch. The mom put down. She did what she had to
and
do.
the grandfather. Those are the only 2.
I agree with you there. I mean, I would have to say that my dumb bitch will fall into the category of one of the humans.
Yeah, I think we're all gonna be with them. I'm certainly not gonna blame any of the gremlins for their behavior. You know what I mean? They're living their best lives.
No, they are just doing what they want to do, and don't we all wish we could be doing that, you know? So I respect them. um it's really hard for me to decide if it's the dad or Billy who is the dumb bitch for me. But I
That's where I
feel
fall too, I think.
yeah, it's one of them because like love Billy. Is he hot? Yes. Is he sweet? Yes. Does he care for Barney? Yes. But does he like pay attention at all to little Gizmo in any meaningful way? No. So like I feel like there were like 25 red flags right at the beginning that he could have caught on to. But would we have been in this situation if Daddy-O hadn't brought the damn thing home in the first place? No. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough for me because obviously the dad is the reason they're in this situation where he asked no follow-up questions about
None.
how the Mogwai should be cared for. He gave it to his son and then he was just like, anyway, gotta go, you'll figure it out. The son also asked no follow-up questions about how these Mogwai should be cared for, and he didn't seem particularly concerned about it at all. Um, he also is the one that fed them after midnight. Like, I know he looked at his clock and it said 11:40 and he was like, it's fine, and then it turns out the clock was broken anyway because they chewed through the wires. So like, arguably you could say that that's not their fault, but also when we were watching the movie, I was like, if you ask me 11:40, if they're not supposed to eat after midnight, 11:40 is 100% pushing it. Like,
Cutting
I
it
would
too
stop feeding them
close.
at 9 p.m.
Uh-huh.
And also, he like just throws the chicken in their little dresser drawer with them, and then when we see them in the morning, there's like 100% still a chicken wing in there that has like not been gnawed on, which means that the food was in there with them all night long. So even if he gave it to them before midnight, which he didn't but wasn't entirely his fault, but even if he gave it to them before midnight, they still had access to it throughout the
Yeah.
whole night, so they would have been able to eat it after midnight, which now makes me feel like the dad is dumb for giving his son this gift that he didn't prepare him at all to raise. But Billy is, as far as I can tell, supposed to be an adult and not a teenager, and should 100% be responsible for his own
Mm-hmm.
pets. And now I've convinced myself that it's Billy, I think.
Yeah, you convinced me too. Like, the dad is just, it was all out of love. He was like, oh, I'm going to get him the best Christmas gift ever. It's going to be amazing. And then he dipped. And that's, he maybe shouldn't have dipped. But Billy, you're an adult man with a job. You already are caring for Barney. Give little Gizmo just half of the attention that you're giving to Barney, and maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. No.
Yeah, like, is the dad responsible through means of neglect, but like based on the fact that he wasn't there for the drama? Arguably, yes, but also, did he get Barney out of the picture by taking him to the grandma's? Also, yes. So that's a bonus point for saving the dog's life.
Agree.
You know what I mean?
Big agree.
For me, Billy was the one there who saw that when Gizmo has babies, the babies are batshit, and was not concerned about that. And I mean, I don't know. They seemed like not safe to be around to me, but he was not at all concerned or careful. And then they went full even when they were in their like pupal stage or whatever, when they were in the cocoons, everybody was just like, these look objectively evil, but it's fine and I'm not worried. And they all just went about their days like, Billy, come on, what are you doing?
Big
I don't know.
fail all around. Not good.
Even
But he did
even
blow
when
them
you
all
get
up.
like
That
a
was
nice
good.
Yeah, even when you get a nice normal puppy of a regular species that humans are familiar with, you know what I mean? A lot of people do like crate training and stuff so that in the middle of the night the puppy is not getting up to all kinds of mischief when it doesn't know any better yet. And I just feel like Billy not a responsible pet owner, and for that I
Not
think
at
he's
all.
the dumb bitch.
I'm right there with you. These are rock solid arguments.
What do you think, Sydney?
This is
Did
science, actually.
yeah,
I mean, Billy does fall into my all humans in this movie are the dumb bitch, so I can fully get along with it.
I feel like we're on the same page here then. Everyone, but specifically Billy, are the dumb bitch of this movie. Except for the Gremlins. They are without any wrongdoing.
Billy, our
Well,
poor himbo
I'm
kid.
kidding. and beautiful mom and wonderful wise old grandfather.
Yes.
Those are the only guys who get off scot-free.
And little baby Giz.
Little
Sweet
baby
baby
Giz.
Giz, sweet
He was
baby
the hero of
Giz.
this movie. That's the thing. Like, sure, in the script, Billy was supposed to also help defeat Stripe, but if we're just going based off what we see, he didn't do shit, really. So,
No.
I mean,
He just carried him around in the backpack so he could get there faster.
he was the sidekick.
He was the getaway man. He was the wheels guy, you know? That's all he did. Which is helpful, but it's not the crux, the crucial hero move, you know? Thank God for you, Gizmo.
Okay, Monica, now it's time. Would you like to?
Yes.
Now we are all on board.
I'm gonna let you guys
We're
know.
all in agreement.
I'm just gonna let you know right now that I was about to say, so that about wraps it up for
Monica's like, done. End of podcast. We're over.
I'm still crying a little bit from before, but yes, okay, it's time for knives out of fives. Finally, I know you've been waiting, so I don't want to go first because I've not decided yet. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. And, you know, for context, this movie on IMDb has 7.3 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it got 85% fresh from critics and 78% fresh from audiences. As of 15 seconds ago, before I started talking, I didn't really know how many knives out of fives I was going to give this movie. Again, I was a little thrown by the xenophobia narrative and whether or not the film endorses it because it's a little confusing. But I'm going to go ahead and say it was a different time. It was the 80s, and I'm just going to accept our don't culturally appropriate message and lean into that. This movie, again, made no sense. I don't think it was particularly trying to. It wasn't like Thanksgiving makes no sense not trying to, where it was actively trying to be bad. It was just like having a blast and doing its thing and not stopping to ask any questions. But I enjoyed myself. You know, I thought it was very fun and entertaining. I could ask more questions, but I don't think I'm bothered to need to know the answers. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it like I don't quite want to give it a 4, but I also do kind of want to give it a 4. So I guess I'm gonna give it 4 knives out of 5. That just like feels right in my heart for some reason. It's just this movie was so absolutely batshit, and I respect that.
You gotta love the insanity. You really do. Do you want to go next, Sydney?
I also give it 4 out of 5 knives for literally everything. I fucking love this movie. It is so dumb. It is so unhinged. It is so gory. Like, this movie gives me everything that I want from it. Like, this movie just absolutely delivers for Sydney Thompson personally. Like,
It's a work of art. It's truly a work of art.
Good. And I think if they had planned better and given Gizmo like more screen time, it would have been a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's true. If I could have seen
Like,
Gizmo wielding a sword, ooh.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if
Ooh.
had, like, all the times that he was just in the backpack, if I could have just seen him more, it would have been an immediate 5 out of 5 for me.
Like if they had him like sitting on his shoulder the whole time instead of in the backpack.
In the backpack, like,
Amazing.
I just need more full, tiny, adorable little Gizmo shots, and that's it.
I feel you. Well, it looks like we're all in agreement. I can finally say. I was gonna give one of my little shitty like 4.11777777 things, and that's like my undercover. That's what I actually rate it. But so I can say we're all in agreement. I will give this 4 knives out of 5s.
Incredible.
I can't say much more than echo what Sydney just said. It was truly unhinged surprise, and they got down with their bad selves and just did whatever the hell they felt like, and it was it was a joy to behold. And it really got me into the Christmas spirit. So no, it was that, like, the Christmas part of it was the scariest part. So that was horrifying. But I loved this movie, and I'm really, really glad we covered it. And I cannot wait to do Gremlins 2 in many months from now when we have recovered from Gremlins 1.
Is it also a Christmas movie? Should we wait for next Christmas? Does anybody know?
I've never seen it, so I have no idea.
I have no
Okay,
idea.
we'll have to do a little research, but we promise you it will make its way onto the schedule.
No mention of Christmas, but it says the synopsis is the Gremlins are back, and this time they've taken control of a New York City media mogul's high-tech skyscraper. Wow.
I love it. I love it already.
I can't wait. Oh,
apparently
it sounds amazing.
Mr. Futterman and his wife make their return, and they're in the sequel. So, don't know what to say about that, but I will withhold judgment until we know more.
There's 6 years in between. Maybe he's learned, but I don't have high hopes for that.
He's been to therapy. He's unpacked some of his trauma, you know.
We can only hope. We can only hope.
Okay, and so next week, keeping up with the Christmas spirit and also keeping up with my favorite of old school horror movies, we are going to be watching the 1974 film Black Christmas, which I don't think either of you two have seen it.
I don't even know what it's about.
Oh,
Sorority girls, right?
yes. It's like, it's a Canadian film.
Ooh.
So it is like one of the like very early slasher movies, but it's about a group of sorority girls at Christmas time. Dun dun dun. It's so
the
good.
remake came out last year, and Monica and I talked about seeing it in theaters together, and then we didn't. And then I heard that the remake was not that great anyway, so I'm very excited to see the original.
Me too.
So there's
I did not know it was a remake.
Multiple remakes. Like, I think there's like 2 or 3 remakes of this.
I thought we were watching a completely different movie. There is another scary movie where someone like eats somebody, but they're in the shape of a Christmas cookie, and I thought that was the movie that we're watching. And it seems like no. It seems like no, that it's not that, and I'm happy because I was really scared to watch that. We'll find out what that movie was. I don't know what it was, but I'll look into it and I'll get back to you.
There's the one that we're watching, the original 70s one. There was a 2006 version of this starring Katie Cassidy, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Michelle Trachtenberg. And then there was a 2019 one, which I haven't seen either of the remakes. I love the original one, so I just like won't. But Carrie Elwes, how do you pronounce
However,
his last name?
you say Mr. Princess Bride's name.
Yes, Mr. Princess Bride. He's in the 2019 one.
Oh, okay. I'm not crazy. I thought the 2006 one was the original one, and apparently there is some Christmas cookie skin action in 2006.
Oh, I was like, what is going on, Monica? I desperately needed to know more of what you were talking about, but I didn't want to interrupt too much.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry for if that's a big spoiler for the 2006 one, but we're not watching that one, so it's fine.
No, we are definitely not watching Black Xmas.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, ew, I don't like that they did Xmas.
Big no. Big no. I'm excited for the OG. Also, I don't know if I've ever seen a scary movie from the 70s before.
Yes, you have. You've seen Halloween.
Oh, that came out in the 70s?
Yes, and we've also seen
the 80s.
No, and we've also seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh god, I blocked that out completely. That movie is so scary. But okay, yeah. See, memory 0. We have already covered this. So this will be my first time watching a 1970s horror film. As far as my brain's concerned.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to get to it, but that just about wraps us up for this week. Next week, we're going to do some sorority sister madness, but for now, stay spooky. I don't know what I was doing. I want to bail immediately.
Stay spooky.
Cut all of that out. delete every bit of what I just said. I
Do you
just
want
felt
me
like
to do-
somebody had to wrap it up, and I was like, I'll go, but I didn't want it to be me. I'm done.
Stay
We're
spooky,
keeping all of this
motherfuckers.
Delete
Hey,
all of
spooky
it.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Right.
Okay, that about wraps up this wild Gremlins ride. If you enjoyed what you heard, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And again, if you didn't, don't go on Apple Podcasts. Want to give a shout out to the people who have given us reviews so far. There are 13 of you, and some of you we don't even know, and we really appreciate that. I believe there was a woman named May who gave us a review, and we adore you, May. Thank you so much. I hope you still listen. And if you want to follow along with the wild ride that is our social media, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at spooky_Tuesday. Or if you are like a person who still has Facebook, go to facebook.com/spookytuesdaypod. Thanks for listening.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
I warned you. With Mokwai comes much responsibility. But you didn't listen, and you see what happens.
But I didn't mean it.
You do with Mokwai what your society has done with all of nature's gifts. You do not understand. You are not ready.